Zeka. Thank you so very much for your important and interesting videos. My question is, I heard that the OT courses consist of the attendee just being delivered a number of documents to read, handwritten by LRH. So, for X thousands of dollars, they just sit there and read a couple of pages that they then have to give back? Is that true? If so, couldn't the absurdity of the situation rather be seen as a test about the status of indoctrination? Or are the OT courses in a classroom situation with one or more attendees and a tutor? Would you describe this? Thank you very much. And Viel liebe Grüße from Germany. That is the one and only time I will ever attempt to speak German. This is actually, thank you for this question, this is actually completely not how OT courses or the advanced courses in Scientology are delivered, so I thought I would take this up. The advanced levels of Scientology are audited. There's counseling, but it's a solo thing, so you can't really call it counseling because nobody's counseling with you. You're just doing it to yourself, so it's called solo auditing. And the courses are just the part that train you in how to do the specific auditing procedures for each OT level. So right now there are 8 OT levels, and all of them except OT4 and OT5 are done solo, which means you sit at a desk with an e-meter and there are specific commands that you use, and you hold the cans in your hand and you sit there and watch the meter and you run a series of questions or commands or processes on yourself, which are all over the internet, so I'm not going to sit here and say what all the commands are, but you do those to yourself silently in this room, following these procedures that you've learned in doing the OT courses. And so Hubbard called them OT courses, or the advanced courses, and that's why it might sound confusing, might make it sound like they're just a class that you take, but they're not. The class is just the first part, then there's the solo auditing. And as far as all of it being in Hubbard's handwriting, that's not true either. There's only a couple of issues on the OT courses that are handwritten, like the Xenu pages, which is a few pages of reference. Most of the references are typed out in issue form, and those are in what are called HCOBs, or Hubbard Communications Office Bulletins, which is how most of the technology of Dianetics and Scientology is laid out, is it's in these bulletins. And there's just books and books of these things. But on the OT courses, that's all confidential material, and so you only see those bulletins on those advanced OT courses. So each level has its own procedures and its own methods and processes that you do, and that's what you spend time in the course room or in the classroom learning. And it consists of reading how to do it, and then you drill or practice doing it, and then you actually go and do the procedure. And there's not a teacher, but there's a course supervisor who oversees the classes and makes sure that everybody gets it. And the classroom could have 15, 20, 2 students in it. And it's sort of a study at your own pace. Everybody's going at their own pace through the materials. It's not a classroom situation where there's a tutor or a class teacher or something like that. And that's the same with all Scientology classes. So if you have questions about that, that's a whole nother question. And that material is all available at the tip of your fingers with Google. So that's how OT levels are delivered, and the bulk of the levels are done solo audited, and that's where you spend hours and hours and hours and hours. The courses usually take anywhere from 15 to 90 hours of coursework, depending on which level. I think OT2 is one of the bigger ones. There are also, just for informational sake, since most people don't know this, there are films on OT2. I don't think there's films on the other levels that are specific confidential films for the OT levels, but on OT2 there are, and I think there's either, I can't remember if it's 9 or 11 films that are just made for that level, and they are given at another level too, but I'm not going to get into explaining all the niceties of that. There's just, on OT2 there are these films, and that's Hubbard explaining some of the OT material and the stuff about the BTs and the stuff about, the whole track and stuff like that. And you can't see those films anywhere else except on that level. They've never been released anywhere else. They're not on the internet. And, so wish they were. I never saw them. I'd love to see them just for, silly sake. So that's how the OT levels are delivered.